So let's just start by saying, look, thanks. I think this is going to be a really good session. Obviously, from our perspective, we're just interested in talking to business owners and people that can share their experiences. And obviously, you guys have started your business just before the shenanigans of COVID. I know obviously you want to introduce yourselves, and I'll come on to that in a second. I think what I'd like to do is maybe just do a little bit of getting to know you and do my own version of an intro, okay? So for everyone that's going to be watching and listening to this, these guys, believe it or not, so Louis, Tony, Sonny, you have over 75 years of experience between you. I mean, it's just crazy between the three of you. To be fair, Tony has probably the majority of that.
I'm not far behind with grey hair.
Yeah, well, we're all going a little bit grey. That just happens. This is stress, kids, whatever. But listen, you know, you seem to have, whilst you've got some common experiences and some common companies you've worked for, you've had 9 different companies or 9 companies between you and 23 different roles. So, you know, you've been quite a journey with your 75 years of experience. Obviously, that's just great. Sets the tone for everybody. I'm going to do a quick fire round with you guys, just so everyone can get to know you a bit. So, Sonny, porridge or toast?
Toast.
Okay. Louis, cats or dogs?
Ooh, dogs.
Okay. Tony, skiing or the beach?
Beach.
Sonny, Liverpool or Everton?
None.
You have to answer one.
I had to choose one. It would be Everton, not Liverpool.
You think that's a tough question? Wait for this one. Louis, Kylie Minogue or Bryan Adams?
Kylie Minogue.
About it. So who was that?
Kylie Minogue.
Okay, cool. Tony, nice one for you. Guinness or cocktail?
Cocktail.
Oh, okay, very good. So we haven't really learned much about you guys, really, because you're a complete enigma. Anyway, listen, just call that the warm-up. At the end of the day, serious matter at hand. You know, you guys have known each other for a number of years. It'd be good if you could just do a quick intro to yourselves. Tell us a little bit about, you know, what your background is, what you're doing here, and then we'll crack on and ask you some questions about your business.
All right, so I'll start. So I've been working in the IT channel since I left university, actually. So I started my career as a junior product manager many moons ago, working at Micro Warehouse, who are no longer around, and cut my teeth there, working as a junior product manager, looking after the displays category and looking after Apple products. From there, learned enough and moved on to Ingram's and spent a good amount of time there, looking after a completely different category, but it was a really good environment to that's where I kind of got to learn all about distribution, you know, working on basis points and volume business and the different channels and the different types of marketing, the way to cultivate different areas. So spent a good amount of time there, and I thought it was time to kind of move on. So I left and started working for a company called EMEA, working in storage media. So kind of worked back up the channel from reseller to distributor, then up to manufacturer. Worked there for a number of years and left there to work eventually ended up at Computers Unlimited, where I met these two and spent going on almost 10 years at Computers Unlimited. So was there when, you know, when Computers Unlimited got bought by Exertis, moved over with them. And just from working with Tony and Sonny, and particularly in the latter part of my time working at Exertis, the idea started to kind of to bubble away about, you know, this is, you know, something potentially doing something for myself and setting up a distribution company. And so, yeah, so that's me in a nutshell.
I'll go next. So I actually started my career as a first line technical support person. So I was actually supporting the old 56k modems. Obviously, none around anymore, but used to listen on the phone, listen for the pings, and, you know, sort of support that product. So I started off my career at a company called Swan Communications at a very young age, and then sort of was trained. Well, I was told I had a little bit of a knack of being a salesman. So then I was sort of taught the ropes on the sales side, and then within a year moved across to being a sales account manager for that company. So I was there for a couple of years, and then that company got acquired by Computers Unlimited. So Computers Unlimited was one of the sort of accessory-focused distributors in the UK. I spent 12 years in total at Computers Unlimited, where I sort of learnt my trade, really, worked closely with Tony and Louis and lots of other people who taught me a lot. Tony was actually my boss at Computers Unlimited, so I worked under Tony for about 8 years and learnt lots and lots from Tony. Eventually, Computers Unlimited then got sold to Exertis, which I too paid over, and spent a further 5 years at Exertis. Again, a different type of distribution company, a sort of large, bigger beast compared to Computers Unlimited. So lots of new stuff learnt there as well. So that was a really good learning curve. So in total, I've been in distribution now for like 17 plus years now. So distribution's been like a forte, and yeah, learned lots along the way. And then, as Louis said, we then decided, I think it was time to take the next step forward, and it's always been an ambition of mine to run my own company. So as Louis said, the idea was knocking around in terms of possibly starting up a new distribution company, and actually thinking about and doing is different. Taking that step is quite scary. So in the end, we decided, right, we're going to go for it, and lo and behold, Tech Unlimited was formed. So here we are, and that's me in a nutshell.
Okay, super, thank you, Tony. What happened when you started out? It was still typewriters and.
I was just trying to work it out, Jesse. I was just trying to work out.
Been passed around.
how many years ago that was. But I'll give you an idea of how long ago it was. I started working, so I've been in the channel for sort of 30-ish plus years. And when I first started working in the channel, Apple wasn't in any shape or form in vogue. So I spent 12 years at an Apple reseller. But as I said, to show you how long ago it was, Apple was far from in vogue, but nevertheless we could make a living out of it. So good experience working in a reseller, and good to get to know about Apple back in those days. I then moved straight from a reseller into almost 15 years at Computers Unlimited, which, as Sonny and Louis said, that's where we all eventually met each other. Sales is my natural tendency and my natural focus, but as my career progressed, I found myself stumbling into management and then sort of, stretching myself and learning and getting to know lots of different things. I stayed in distribution after Computers Unlimited and did a couple of years at Tech Data. And it was interesting to go to work, as Sonny and Louis would have found out, at Exertis. It was really good learning to work for a £3 billion plus business and how they operate. I'd got to the stage, I'm trying to think when, maybe about a year ago, Sonny gave me a call. Always welcome to get a phone call from Sonny. And he spoke to me about the fact that him and Louis had this idea, and he wanted to plant the seed that I may get a call sometime further down the line, to which I did. But yeah, lots of experience in distribution, seen huge amounts of change, but at the same time, some of the constants have been what customers are looking for, and that's hopefully what we're going to do at Tech Unlimited.
Yeah, okay. Well, listen, thanks for sharing the experience. Like I said, that's a combination of like 75 years worth of work history there. So a couple of things there. What happened to Micro Warehouse? Did they get bought by someone, or did they just go?
Yeah, they got bought by PC World Business.
Okay. So listen, Tech Unlimited, I sort of get where the name came from, because Computers Unlimited come up quite a few times during that sort of introduction there. But tell us about where the idea. Talk a little bit more about the sort of the background and what you were looking to address in the market with Tech Unlimited. Yeah,
so I think, when myself and Sonny moved over to Exertis, it culminated with a lot of stuff happening within the channel over the last, I'd say, 3 to 5 years, where a lot of the larger broadline distributors had bought up a lot of the specialist distributors in the market. So, I myself on the vendor side, speaking to brands, some of the smaller brands, and then Sonny on the sales side, speaking to customers, weren't necessarily getting the handheld approach that, you know, that we'd seen vendors, you know, and we'd experienced in doing that, coming from Computer Limited, doing that in the past, where you know, take maybe a brand that wasn't necessarily a household name in the marketplace. You'd work with them on the go-to-market strategy. You'd work with them on the commercials. You'd work with them on the marketing. And, you know, if it was a retail brand, you'd help them with the packaging. All the income, you'd be an extension of that brand's, you know, commercial and sales teams, so to be. And that wasn't necessarily what we were finding ourselves doing at Exertis. And brands, you know, Exertis is set up to do different things. So, you know, so when we were speaking to brands, that wasn't there, and that kind of, and speaking to customers, they weren't, from their perspective, getting a chance to see some great ideas, some great products that were coming to the marketplace, because simply the way that the model was set up within those broadline companies wasn't there to facilitate that. So they were missing out on sales opportunity. So we got talking, you know, over lunch and say, you know, we should do this, we should do that. And, you know, 1 year went by and it didn't happen. And finally, I think in September, we kind of thought, you know, let's actually put a plan together, put some numbers on the table and go and do this. So that was kind of the catalyst for the idea, really, kind of a need in the marketplace for that focused specialist value-add distributor. You know, not being all things to all men, but picking core markets where, and finding a specialism and delivering that and bringing value to those customers and to those brands. So that's kind of where the idea comes from, really.
And when did you make a decision to actually leave to set it up, or when was it actually to that point to operational? Because the idea, you sort of sat down in September.
So September, it was, I guess the idea started to become more real, but I think really it was around, I remember I was on holiday actually, and we'd put some numbers together and got on a Zoom call with Sonny. We started going through things, and actually, you know, that was kind of when we thought, you know, let's actually really do this. And so I guess from actually, you know, taking the idea forward from September and October, November was when it really kind of materialized. Like, actually, now we can actually do this. And then, you know, a month or so later, we kind of, you know, started the business. So it all happened really, really quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, but it had been an idea that's been building, and kind of, I guess we've been, you know, building it up to that point for, you know, a year or two before we thought, okay, right, let's just go ahead and, you know, move forward with this.
So in regards to, like, you know, you're looking at those niche, you know, new innovative products that probably weren't getting the airtime. That's what you saw in a break in the market, I suppose. That's where that idea came from. So what about taking that to market then? How did you decide that you were leaving one disty and then, you know, setting up your own? And how do you then approach it? And what was your differentiator apart from your product set?
It was a kind of a step approach. I think the first thing was to definitely knew that there were brands out there that needed that, you know, that touch, and definitely the customers as well. So it was, I think the first step was to, you know, to go and speak to those brands. And when it became clear that we were, you know, embarking on this project, you know, there are, you know, a large number of brands out there, but it was about picking the right brands, and pretty much had an idea, because, you know, being in the market you speak to brands and you meet people all the time, and you're close to the customers and you see what gaps that they've got in their portfolio. And we knew that to make it work, there were certain brands and customers we needed on board to start with, you know, because you need to, you know, get some revenue and stuff going for business. So that was pretty, I would say pretty easy, but we kind of knew the plan to kind of follow that route. And I think the first thing though was to get those key customers and those key brands on board. And we pretty much did that within, like, again, within that 4-week period, just to know that it was going to work, really.
It's interesting to go and get some of those innovative products that weren't getting airtime in the marketplace. I mean, Sonny, maybe I can just bring you in here. What was it like sort of setting up the brand and then going into your sort of customer base, announcing, you know, what you were doing? What was that like for you? You know, what was your approach?
Historically, I've always had, you know, long-standing relationship with most of my customers, you know, UK customers, as well as, you know, we service Europe as well, so European customers as well. So I approached a lot of them with a few of the sort of brands that we were looking at, just to sort of put the feelers out there in terms of, if we were to go to market to bring these few brands on board, sort of gauge what the level of interest would be. And sort of got the reaction that I wanted, and we got a phenomenal response. And they said, yep, you know, these are the sort of things that we are looking for, where focus is needed, and we need that sort of value-added disty to help us to go to market and to brand build, and to help us with the service levels we need to actually, for us to then take the product to market and to be able to sell the product correctly. So all in all, a very good reception, and yeah, exactly what we wanted really.
Okay, and then obviously from the time that you set up, you get all these great conversations going. Obviously, do your launch, and then COVID hits. You know, Tony, what did that mean to your business the moment that all hit when you're only a little way into your launch?
Yeah, so I suppose like whether you were an established business or a new business, it meant that you had to sort of think on your feet and think very quickly, and sort of, you know, that interesting process that all businesses, you know, the experience that you've mentioned we got between us, but none of us had an experience of working in a pandemic, and particularly with a new business. I think that I think you know, we had some things that worked in our favour. So as we were setting up as a business, and as we were starting some of our sort of logistical relationships, we were in the fortunate position where we could put some things on hold. I.e., we weren't halfway through a sort of you know, a year or a 3-year commitment with large overheads. So we were fortunate, if I can use that word, that we were actually able to sort of very quickly adjust our style of working. We're all very used to working from home, and we didn't have elaborate and expensive offices with contracts and multiple members of staff. So we used that to our advantage. We very quickly looked at the budget that we'd planned, both the sort of cost and sales budget, and we amended that accordingly. So, you know, what I would say is it was tough. There's no two ways about it. It was tough. But we adapted as quickly as we could, and we sort of signed off a new budget that was aligned to new overheads. And, you know, touch wood, we've worked our way through it.
I don't think anyone's got an experience of ever working through a pandemic, not in our generation anyway, because I don't think even you, Tony, weren't around when the Spanish flu was kicking in the early 1900s. It's been unprecedented. It's an overused term, but to set up a business just sort of before, you know, and still come out the other side. Let's just talk about that. What has the progression been like, Louis, you know, over the last, since your launch? Let's talk about the launch and to now, give everyone an idea about exactly what you have been through.
We officially launched, you know, at BET 2020. That was our official launch date. And we kind of, at the time of that launch, we had a particular strategy in terms of bringing products to market and categories. And that went really well. And we were expected to kick on from that point on. Obviously, you know, with the outbreak and then the pandemic, we had to change tacts. And as Tony mentioned, we had to make adjustments to kind of, you know, what our costs and expenditures were going to be. But more critical to that, we kind of looked at what were we expecting to sell in this period, and how can we kind of adjust, you know, our product portfolio and our categories to kind of maybe still be interesting to, you know, to our customers in this current climate. So we kind of looked at the portfolio, and you know, going into the pandemic, we have you know, we just launched with 4 brands. Coming out of it, well, not out of it, but coming towards the end of it, and ease of lockdown measures, we're at 13. We expanded our product categories, so we kind of looked at what's our customer. What are, you know, part of the TU ethos is not just looking at we've got our core categories, but we also look at areas where we think we can add value. You know, what are our customers going to be looking at doing?
Do you think the slowdown or the challenges that the market brought because of COVID and the pandemic, and how it made everyone sort of stop for a minute, do you think even in your early stages that possibly worked to your advantage, because you were already setting some things, but you then had to look at things differently that you've been forced to? I
think definitely. I think as a business, we're in a much more firm and stronger position coming out of the situation, out of pandemic and COVID, than when we started. For the similar reason, like I said, it's made us, you know, we were nimble enough to kind of make adjustments. We adjusted, you know, the products that we're looking to bring to market, which are, and you know, it's kind of a lot of those products and categories help us be more relevant in the kind of the changing environment. And also from a funding point of view, I think with everybody kind of everyone had to kind of stop and take a look at stuff and look at examine their own business. And sometimes when you are in a business and you're maybe chasing a number, people get caught in the day to day. And sometimes if you're, you know, trying to get a meeting with someone or trying to speak to them about something else, they want to have that conversation. They want to give you the time, but they haven't got the time because they're chasing a number. But everyone was in a situation where things, stopped for a bit, and that gave us an opportunity to say, hang on a minute, this is the value that we can bring to your business because we've got X, Y, we've got these brands, and that's something that we were able to do very well, I think, over the course of March up until now, really.
Okay, and Sonny, can you give your sort of side of that? I mean, obviously I've known you probably longer than I've known the other guys, and just in regards to how you found it working on the client side, what was their reaction? What sort of message do you go to them with?
So it was that message of, I think, the customers that were looking for a good disty with, I suppose, basic common sense. That was one of the key factors. But also, from my historic relationships with these customers, it's that more flexible, personal touch. I think as a company, we're like a people's company. So, I always believe that sort of people buy from people approach. And, having that relationship and engagement was always a key factor to building our sales and building a number. But obviously pandemic sort of scuppered that a little bit because there was no sort of what I call face-to-face interaction anymore. So we had to sort of change our tact a little bit, and everything was now done over video Zoom calls or Teams calls, and that sort of changed a little bit, but it's still very, very positive. And as Louis said, there was that time to sort of take a step back, spend that time sort of analysing things rather than sort of rush chasing a number. So in a funny way, it had a little bit of a benefit for us to sort of think about a few things in the background.
Yeah, I mean, you were just getting on with things with the launch, and then suddenly you had to rethink how you were approaching. You weren't trying to sell anybody. You built on your relationships, your long-standing, reputation. Hold you in good stead. You just touched on the fact that obviously we all had to start working remotely, and we're on Zoom. Tony, what was it like, transitioning from a very what you wanted was a high touch, personal business to suddenly moving to this remote and Zoom working environment? How was that?
I suppose we were fortunate that everyone was having to adjust alongside us. And through all of our careers, we predominantly with Computers Unlimited, we worked with a business where you weren't stuck to the office for 5 days, particularly in Sonny's customer facing role. So there wasn't an adjustment for the three of us in terms of working from home. It's something we've all done and been very familiar with and very comfortable with. From our customers' point of view, again, we went on the journey with them. Touching on one or two of the points that Sonny and Louis have made, it's sort of during this time, customers needed even more flexibility and even more people that could have a conversation with them and use some common sense and some trust. So I think we found ourselves in a situation where some of our customers, for obvious reasons, were having challenging times, and more so than ever before, be it over Zoom. They needed someone just to take a calculated gamble with them, or someone just to give them that bit of extra support, or without cutting corners to get something moving quickly. And that's where that's what we're all about. So we did find ourselves in a situation of talking to people predominantly on Zoom that as and when opportunities were coming up, they needed someone to give them that little bit extra. Yeah. And it could have been sending a sample out quickly, it could have been a price point or a turnaround. So we found it was fine. Outside of that, we're looking forward to face-to-face meetings again, but we found that Zoom didn't cause us any challenges. We adapted well.
Yeah, it's good to know. It's funny that people have been forced to make changes, but we've embraced it quite quickly. If I come back to you, Sonny, I know that we're both pretty much the same. We like a beer. We like our we're quite tactile, so we're always like a bit cuddly and all of that. We're people, right? So how have you found that transition? Talking to your customers, it's been fine. I mean, just have a virtual beer with everybody. What have you been doing?
It'd be nice to have a virtual beer. No, it's been good actually. It's been actually almost like a refreshing change, to be fair. I mean, for myself, rather than sort of, I suppose, maybe gallivanting is the wrong word, but, you know, going out and about and having the trips around Europe to go and see customers, because we're not in the UK. So, and same driving across the UK to see all our customers. I love doing that, but it was a nice refreshing change to sort of sit back and relax at home, and have the sort of Zoom conversations instead. And we actually, I think, you know, in terms of touch points, reached a lot more customers through the sort of video conferencing tools than I would be physically be able to get around in a month, for example, or in a quarter. So in that respect, that actually sped a lot of things up for us. So
cheaper as well, isn't it? It's cheaper.
Yeah.
I bet your family are happy you're home all the time, aren't they?
Oh yeah, wife was happy. Yes, it got me doing all sorts.
I'm sure we're all in the same boat. So listen, let's talk about how you've been growing the brands and what your brand strategy is. Maybe I can just throw that out to you, Louis. You know, obviously we've talked about the fact that you started with 4, you grew it to 13. What is the overall brand strategy?
I mean, our key message to both customers and to the brands is that we're a distiller focus. So, you know, so we're at 13 brands at the moment. Our intention with the brands that we take on board is that we become, I said, extensions of those businesses. So we feel it's, you know, if we had many more than 13 or, you know, than that, we couldn't become subject matter experts on those brands. So it allows us to do that. We need to have a very focused, concise, kind of we call it a narrow and deep strategy on our brands. Also, when we work with the brands, we want brands that get the channel. So, you know, a lot of brands, you know, it's because it suits them. They sometimes have like a hybrid model where they go by the channel and service business direct. You know, but the brands that we've, you know, when we've spoken to a lot of brands, understand that we are a channel-focused business. You know, and they support us to do that. You know, and then they get that, you know, there's things that they need to do to support our business, and in turn that they support us with the resellers. So in doing that, it's been very important. We've spoken to a lot of brands, but finding the right brands that complement each other as well. So we've got a category-led approach, but all the brands that we take on board. So when we talk to our typical customers, and you know, we focus on predominantly attached accessories. We look at what will that customer be taken to, what will our customer be taken to their customer in terms of the hardware unit, and what bolts around, so what are the potential add-ons that they can put. And all the add-ons that we work with from a brand perspective will all complement each other. So for example, we'll, you know, we certainly service, you know, someone, you know, classic scenario, you know, someone buys an iPad that goes into the school, they've got to put the cases on the iPads, they need to charge the iPads, they need the cables, they need, you know, the charging carts, and they all complement each other. So when we're speaking to customers, we're providing not just products, but effectively solutions. So, you know, so it makes sense for them to work with us because we can provide everything they need to fulfill that solution attached requirement for their customer.
So how have you qualified maybe some of the companies that you've either approached or approached you and sort of said, let's talk about a no scenario? You don't have to obviously give a specific, but when's it a no for you? When they're maybe too direct, they're not really relying on the
if they're too direct, if they, you know, if we speak to a brand and they say to me, you know, what's your primary area of focus, what channel do you see you going into? And if a brand says to me, I want to be in retail, B2B, education, I want to be in Dixon's, John Lewis, I want to be in, you know, all these other B2B accounts, then I know that they're trying to be all things to all men, and they're probably not the right brand for us. You know, but if I go to brand and, you know, our core area of focus is predominantly targeting the education and B2B market. If I speak to a brand and they say, you know, yeah, that's where we want to be, you know, we get Apple, a lot of our, you know, accessories, you know, focus around the Apple attach, then I go, okay, that's the correct brand for us. Also, if they, you know, a very key part of it is what their strategy is in terms of go to market. If they go direct, it doesn't necessarily work for us, because we want to be able to work with our partners and give our partners confidence. And when I say partners, I mean our, you know, our customers, our reseller partners, that if they were to work with us on a particular project, that, you know, the brand's not going to come in at the last minute. So actually, this is a bit of business that we might want to service ourselves. So there's a two-way partnership working with us and our customers. So there's a number of things we look at before we kind of take a partner on board.
And how much involvement do you have to do to get the product launched? You know, if it's an unknown, are you picking up some unknown brands that haven't really got it in the market, and you've got to do a bit of sort of marketing, you know, build some assets around the product to get it to market?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, so a lot of these guys, I mean, the brands are at various stages of their development. So some of the brands, you know, they've already got, you know, key to driving that is the content. So a lot of them already have content prepared and they already have experience of it. Some of the brands don't understand that. So I'll have to say, okay, if you want to attack them, there's a certain commercial strategy you need to work with, certain, events or certain marketing bits that we suggest that you build into your planning. So it very much depends on the brand really. But and part of the reason for Tech Unlimited is because we like that part of the business. We liked, that there's a certain amount of excitement to seeing a brand that's, comes from nothing and building it up and helping them, come to market that way. So that's part of the value add that we do for brands and customers.
Yeah, I can see that being that game come back to the wealth of experience. Obviously, what's excites you all is basically taking that unknown brand, breaking them into the new market, and seeing that and knowing that you've contributed to getting them a voice in the market, and you've got a quality brand that's disrupting maybe an alternative player that's had a monopoly or has been the leading brand. That's really exciting. I mean, listen, sales are growing. Sonny, what's happening? In regards to like the market, who you're speaking to? Is it UK? Is it going to be international? What's been happening then? Talk about the how we choose the brand and then how we take them to market. What's actually happening on the sales side?
So from a customer focus level, we focus on, we've got a split really. So 50% of our business is done in mainland Europe. We've also got key relationships in the Middle East as well. And I suppose the other 50% is UK market. So we've got a good split of customers, a good split of territories, good split of market across the board really. And I suppose that moving forward now with customers, we're starting to sort of see a little bit the turn of the pandemic. It feels like it's getting a lot busier. We can see that in sort of the levels of engagement we're getting from customers in terms of level of quoting and just general conversation. So in that respect, the numbers for us are getting bigger, which is great. That's what we need as a company to grow. I suppose we're in a position now where we're I guess stable, but our next plan is to accelerate really. So that upward curve is where we want to go, and depending how current climate and COVID goes, I'm looking forward to getting back out again, going to meet my customers again.
Your liver's not going to be looking forward to you getting back out in the field, is it?
Well,
it's had a nice rest. So we're looking forward to getting back out in the field, pressing some flesh, having a few beers with your customers, and you're going back to some of the old ways that make Sonny that great salesman, right?
Oh, of course, yeah. That face-to-face interactions, what we live and breathe really, and having that sort of social banter with the customers, having a sort of nice beer, and at the same time getting the work done as well, is I suppose what we miss. So I'm looking forward to getting back out there, but time will tell when we can actually sort of make that transition, depending on where things go.
I know you're comfortable behind the camera and you've got your hair done. We know that, but you are extremely charismatic in the centre of attention when you come on the sales floor. Everyone knows you. I think that's great, and obviously I think everyone's going to be welcoming you back with open arms when you get back out in the field, and and obviously hopefully everyone can have a few good beers and reminisce that we've all survived and come out the other side. I think we're all looking forward to that. So I suppose, What does the future hold, Tony? What's the future hold for you guys? The rest of this year and beyond.
Yeah. So as Sonny sort of said, we have, as a new company, some people might say it's easier to do, but we're delighted that we have seen month-on-month growth, and as well as getting the month-on-month growth in sales, we've been really delighted to see the breadth of dealers that are buying from each brand is growing as well. So we welcome the nice big juicy orders, but it's also nice to get a good spread. So we want to see that trend continue. But we've now started, when we look at our budget, to think about how do we add resource to our business, because we've all had more fun in the last 6 months than we have maybe in the sort of previous 5 years. We're enjoying it,
okay,
but we're working very hard. So the next sort of 6 months or so, we've steadied the ship, and to use Sonny's word, we are looking to accelerate. So that will see some new members of staff come on board. That will see us have the capability then to take a few more brands on board and to get out and about and see our customers. So we're extremely confident of continuing the sort of month-on-month, quarter-on-quarter growth. And, you know, like the rest of the world, we're hoping that when we get into the start of 2021, whilst it won't be back to normal, we can then sort of look at a budget that really pushes growth into next year.
Okay, and what sort of recruitment are you looking at then in regards to like bolstering out your team? What's that going to look like in the coming months or the next year?
Yeah, so we're sort of you know, so we've already this week we've taken on sort of a marketing intern this week. Yeah. You know, on some of the points we said earlier on, we sort of really want to build the assets for our brands. Also, then we're going to look for some sort of good old-fashioned general office admin, someone that we can sort of take on board and develop.
Yeah.
As we then move forward, we'll then be looking to add resource to the sales side and the product management side. But initially, it will be marketing, and it will be general office resource that we get.
Okay, so beyond the recruitment then, and we're all looking forward to getting back to some level of normality, and I suppose we're all sick of hearing the words unprecedented, pandemic, COVID for sure, you know, new normal. Is there ever going to be a new normal? It's just going to be normal, whatever it's going to be, it's just going to be our normal world. We know that Sonny's desperate to get out and meet some customers and do what he's good at. But what's beyond that then, Louis? You know, what about, you know, bringing on some brands? What's, you know, talk about that strategy, just looking a little bit more forward than where the journey you've been on at the moment. You know, what's that look like for you?
Yeah, so I think, I mean, we're, as I said before, we're at 13 brands, and with our strategy, we've probably got capacity to add maybe 2 or 3 more in the first year, but it's finding the right brands that kind of fit in. So we've in terms of our core areas, we've kind of got them covered. But one of the things that we've committed, you know, in terms of our strategy and what we do to our customers is bring on, you know, incremental and new business and new innovative brands, the ones that change the disruptors in the marketplace. So it's the search will, you know, is an ongoing search to kind of bring some of those brands on board to the portfolio so that we can bring some added value.
Just thinking out loud, really, you know, what's more important at this point? Is it still building your product portfolio out, or is it acquiring new partners to sell through? I mean, I'm sure the answer is probably a bit of both, but you know what?
It's a bit of both. I think you know, bringing partners on, you know, that's an ongoing process. You know, because if you want to grow a successful business, you know, you've got to get, you know, more customers and continue to build a customer base. But then if you once your customer base gets to a point, you have to continue to sell products in them. You've got to shuffle that product portfolio around because brands, you know, the market is very fluid. So, you know, continue looking at, you know, what brands are relevant, are they remaining relevant? You know, we're in a market where a lot of our business is based on what the hardware market does. So the brands have to be, you know, kept up to date. They themselves have got to make sure that they are in touch with the likes of Apple, the likes of Chrome, you know, the Chromebook market, likes of Surface. They've got to be in touch with what those guys are doing and what the market's doing. Okay. So it's very important to kind of stay close to those brands and maybe help them along that route, but also see what brands in the marketplace, you know, are moving along with what, you know, the hardware guys are doing to help push ourselves.
Well, just quickly then, maybe Tony, to bring it to a nice conclusion. I was just thinking, what do you think has been the biggest challenge you've seen in this short journey so far? And then what is the thing that you've learned that's been beneficial the most?
So the biggest challenge has been the pandemic, but putting that to one side, I think one of the challenges that we had is making people, you know, as you said, with our experience, we're all sort of people's people. It's getting people to smile and nod and be delighted at what we're doing, but it's actually sort of, you know, we've enjoyed, and it's been a challenge actually getting people to then sort of spend that money with us and realise that this isn't just a great idea and I hope it really works out for you. It's getting people to realise, well, it will work out for us if you actually do the bit that you said you were going to do. Yeah. So that's been a challenge for us. Some people, again, you know, slapping us on the back and wishing us the best of luck and making them realise, well, you can wish me the best of luck, but actually you can contribute to that as well. So that's been really interesting. I think that moving forward as well, it's interesting that a number of resellers are saying to us, it's great when you can bring new technology, but actually I wish I had someone like you that could just deal with some bread and butter functional products. So that's interesting for us. And, you know, there are conversations that are happening there. Do we want to be known for bringing new tech and new revenue? Yes, we do. But at the same time, there may be a bit more of a balance there, because the market is saying to us, I've got a functional product, it's not exciting or new, but actually, if someone with your approach can be my partner on it, I think we can drive sales on it. So that'll be interesting for us moving forward as well.
Okay, listen, excellent. If people want to reach out to you, and hopefully we can get this video and the sound bites that we've said spread far and wide, Louis, where are they going to find you?
So if they could follow Tech Unlimited at techunlimited.co on LinkedIn, or check out the website techunlimited.co. Alternatively, they email us all directly at sales@techunlimited.co.
Listen, it's been a blast. We've had a good chat. We've got a really good feeling about what you are as a business. I love the fact that you're taking sort of these innovative and maybe unknown brands to market, and sort of bringing all that wealth of experience to the marketplace, to people. And I think it's refreshing. Like they say, it's a personal touch, it's the knowledge and experience, and a little bit of fun on the way. It's not going to hurt anyone, right? But it's been a pleasure speaking to you guys, and wish you all the best. Thanks, guys. I'm going to end the recording. Okay, so see you later.
Pleasure. Thanks, Jesse.
Thanks, Jesse. Cheers.